When it comes down to create a really strong photograph, and I'm not talking about a snapshot, I'm talking about a quality piece of art, the most important base requirement is inspiration. In this video I'm going to show you the power of inspiration and how I managed to get out a really fantastic photograph recently, although I was totally uninspired in the beginning. Inspiration, this is the most important source for creativity. Hi my friends, very nice to see you. Oh man, I got out an amazing photograph some weeks ago. I'm blown away. But the thing is, I was totally uninspired in the beginning. My first photographs were even clear rubbish. I didn't believe in myself. I even didn't think that it was possible to get out a masterpiece at that location. I was so uninspired. I can't remember when I was ever that uninspired in my life. But while I was photographing, and I still get goosebumps when I think about that. While I was photographing, there happened something. I got inspired, and this changed everything. So I want to show you the photographs I took in the same order how I experienced them, just to give you the same kind of experience what I had. And again, the first one was absolute rubbish. Well, everything began with a nice and quiet barbecue party in the early evening with some friends, and on that same evening there was a fire festival just 15 minutes from us, totally spectacular by the way. Each year they illuminate mountain faces with Bengal fire so that it looks like the mountains were burning. And as I was enjoying my last piece of a fantastic Austrian sausage, anyone had the idea to drive over there and to photograph the inflamed mountains. I mean, this is a spectacular festival and I agreed to come along, but I didn't want to take my camera with me because, you know, I'm a landscape photographer, I see myself as an artist and I want to look for my own compositions, I want to tell my own stories, and I don't want only to capture reality because this never leads into art on my experience. I mean, these illuminated mountains are definitely art, but the art is more done by the fire master, or however he is called. So I didn't want to take my gear with me, and I'm not sure how, but finally I got willed to take it anyway with me. Yeah, I mean, I thought it were maybe at least a possibility to train my ability, you know, handling with my camera gear in the dark, getting exposure managed, focusing in the dark, all these things, because yeah, when you break it down, these are really important skills for blue hour or astrophotography as well. You can't train this enough. So we drove there and I went up a hill to have a better view to the mountain faces which would get inflamed. I took some dash shots just to get sure about the depth of field. I didn't think about taking some foreground into my frame, to be honest, but yeah, it's just a usual ritual I do when I arrive to a location. And so finally they started with the first mountain and it looked spectacular. I took this shot here and as already mentioned, that's just a snapshot. It was just all about training my technical skills. Usually I would never show it to anyone. Yeah, it just tells the story of there was a fire show at the mountain and it looks much better in reality. Oh yeah, that's not the kind of photography I usually prefer, and it is far away from a world class shot. Yeah, it's just a snapshot of reality. But then there happened something totally amazing. As I zoomed in to check if it is in focus, I realized that there were shapes in the shadow. So the smoke from the fire looked like mist in the trees. And with a sudden I saw the possibility of getting a sense of depth into the image. I really sensed the possibility of building up the composition. But as I wanted to start with thinking about the composition, the fire disappeared. I knew that there was a second mountain face which should be inflamed just some minutes later. I was so excited, even nervous, yeah. I was inspired by things I knew already from my experience. I knew that the trees with the atmospheric conditions can create depth in the photograph. I knew that I can use patterns in the image to get control over the viewer's eyes. So as the second fire appeared finally, I quickly built up the composition considering depth, balance, all the things I always mention in my videos. And when we look at it, the image is nicely anchored by these trees here at the bottom. That's the reason, by the way, why the first one didn't work. The eyes were just drifting away there. We have this fantastic layering due to the different contrasts and saturations, and we have a fantastic plasticity on the mountain face. But anyway, I was not 100% happy with it. First of all, the flow of this composition, it was okay, but I didn't nail it, to be honest. I didn't get 100% control over the viewer's eyes, and I was still told the story of there is a fire show and the photographer tried to build up a great composition. Yeah, that's the story of this photograph, isn't it? I mean, it's already much better. I even would give it 4 stars, to be honest, as it is an illustration of reality. So this means I would publish it, even print it, even in a public illustrated book or something like that. But it was definitely not a portfolio shot for me. The amount of art I brought into the image was already much higher, but the amount of art of the fire artist, what he brought in, was still too high for me. So it didn't feel like my own piece of art. But how can we anyway create an art history photograph with this scene? And that's the question what I asked myself. And now it gets really interesting. As I zoomed in also to check if it is in focus, some parts of it remembered me a bit to a series of paintings which my grandfather has painted decades ago. And if you're new to this channel, my grandfather was an artist, a painter and a professor in art. He was focused on portraits and landscapes, but sometimes he also painted surreal scenes out of his mind, just from his fantasy. And these were quite strong artworks, I have to say. And the mood up on that mountain face remembered me especially to 2 of his paintings. Let me show you. These are 2 oil paintings and they belong to each other. And quite interesting, he decided for a circular framing, what makes it really difficult to show them here in the video. But however, the first one is a scene of people hiking up a mountain. It is difficult to interpret the story here without knowing about the second painting. But when we have a look at the second one, we see a close-up of a more intimate scene up on the mountain, and this is amazing. I don't know if he decided for an image title back then, to be honest, but I always say the way of life to this painting, because when we look at it, we see people coming out from this cave, all want to hike up to that upper cave, and everyone does anything different. Some are carrying heavy weights with them, some seem to have their alpine skis with them or anything else what is important to them. For some it seems to be quite easy to get up, but for some it seems to be really hard. Not everyone seems to get to the top finally. For some the way ends already earlier, some give up, some leave the right way, some are helping others, carrying their weights. Some realize that it is not all about getting up as fast as possible, some make just a break and enjoy being there with others. So yeah, this is an outstanding piece of art for me. And know this painting, since I was a little boy, it was hanging in the living room of my grandfather's house and later in the house of my parents. And as I looked again at my last photograph, I saw some elements that remembered me quite a lot to some of these elements of this painting, especially these red reflections on the rocks and these shadows on the trees remembered me a bit to people walking in the painting. Yeah, I really got inspired by the painting I had in my mind, which I knew from my experience already from my whole life. I didn't have all too much time, to be honest, but due to that mood I got influenced already, I started to see even more characters. But let's reveal them in the final shot. And this is it, my final photograph. I got this smoke here at the left hand side to work as an anchor. I got this guy up here, this rock, looking like a kind of, dark creature or something like that. Here his eyes, his nose, mouth, chin, and it looks like he would hold himself at the rock up there, peering over the rocks towards the smoke, and this gives our base structure for the flow. The viewer's eyes move left, right, left, always between the smoke at the left hand side and the creature at the right hand side. The eyes move along this path down here where the people were walking, I mean the trees here obviously. We have this skeleton soldier sitting on a chair or maybe a throne or something like that. And here in the brightest part of the fire we see a shadow of a person. And I think this is really an important character here in this scene. And these shadows here right beside appear quite ominous to the person. Up there on that mountain face we see some, how they are called in Harry Potter? Dementor or something like that, any flying creatures. The upper one even seems to have a kind of scythe in his hand or something like that. Finally, these scenes look like people would walk towards the fire and there's anything happening there, maybe Last Judgment or something like that. And yeah, that's also the title of this image, Last Judgment. And really, I'm getting goosebumps when I'm just thinking about it. As I was taking the last shot, I felt this requirement of completing the series of 2 paintings. I mean, I know these 2 paintings were not created by me, but I engaged with them already my whole life. And it feels a little bit like a part of me, if you want. So I don't want to adorn myself with boiled plums or something like that. The base concept was definitely not created by myself. It was made by my grandfather, and he did an amazing job here. That's art, my friends. And I'm not sure if any other artist out there, or in history maybe, or whatever, I don't know if anyone existed who completed a series of another artist, but you know, I never tend to do what others do. I do it in that way and it feels right for me. Yeah, I think maybe viewers wouldn't understand the story in my image without engaging deeply with it, but definitely knowing about the 2 original paintings is a big game changer for the viewers. The second painting is quite the key of the whole trilogy. It contains most of the base story. The first painting gives you just an introduction, it is the opening of the story. The second painting tells the core of the story, and my third image, my photographs, finish the story. Not sure what you think about that? Leave me a comment below. I'm always interested about what other artists or other photographers are thinking about my works and my ideas. Yeah, I'm totally happy with the final image I got out and it looks so fantastic as a fine art print, and I printed it on a burrito to get all the shadow details out. And yeah, I have such a tight connection to this image and all these creatures here. It's amazing, isn't it? And yeah, I mean, it is the same mountain face, obviously, but there is much more integrity of the artist, of the photographer inside. The story of it is much stronger than reality, and we start already to forget about the fire show when we look at it. But don't get me wrong, I really don't want to mess up with the fire show. The guys did an amazing job here, and I really appreciate the art of the fire show itself. I just want to show up how you can create your own piece of art just with inspiration, anything from your experience. And I think this experiment, if you want, it shows quite well the levels of photography as well. I mean, when I arrived, I was just focused on getting a sharp image in the dark and to get the exposure right. I didn't think about composition. I was focused on technique, and on the second one I was focused on getting out the composition. It's already much better. It's already a clean shot. But a clean shot is not enough for a masterpiece. The final level was the story I got into this image, and there's not all that much difference between these last 2. Slightly changes can bring your photography already to the next level, and the key of how I got to these next levels was done by inspiration. As I arrived to the spot, I was totally uninspired. My photographs were rubbish, but as soon as I got inspired, my photography got better and better and ended up in a really strong one. Finally, we can say the more I got inspired, the better my results got. So always think about that. Engage with the image of other photographers, engage with paintings, talk with other photographers, maybe with really experienced ones, listen to how they perceive the world, go out for hiking, look at different scenes in nature, visit fire shows maybe. By the way, I can really recommend, if you should ever come to Austria, consider to enjoy this amazing fire show in Altersee, what is called Berge in Flammen. That's the name of the show, and this is just German for mountains on fire or burning mountains or something like that. I think it's always in the middle of August, something like that, so just if you're interested. The only problem you have when you photograph a fire show or any show, there's a copyright by the creator of the show, obviously. So what I did is, after I took these photographs, I just asked them if I'm allowed to publish my photographs on my social networks, on my website, also here on my YouTube channel, and they really agreed with everything. And I even got allowed to sell a smaller amount of prints. So I offer a limited edition of 10 prints on my website, but I have to say, I'm quite surprised that I got allowed therefore. I'm not sure if they generally allow that, but the creator knew my grandfather. Maybe this could be an advantage. But however, asking is the best option, I think. And yeah, I'm really happy with this image, with this final image. and it is not this typical kind of landscape photography I usually do. I mean, it is a mountain scene, what I usually photograph. I just never use an artificial light source, which is usually quite difficult on mountains, to be honest. But I think I will maybe hold it here a little bit like my grandfather. My focus is on landscape photography, but from time to time I want to allow myself to break out a little bit and to photograph some surrealistic scenes or anything what is not classic landscape photography. Friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, please give me a thumb up and don't forget about your friends. Let's also show to your friends the power of inspiration and share this video on your social networks. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
I'm the landscape you need to see. You are the artist I'll never be. Stay with me and I have no doubt you'll make a painting that makes you proud.